The grand Hanok estate glittered beneath a canopy of 10,000 white roses. Crystal chandeliers descended from silk-draped ceilings like frozen waterfalls of light. 300 of Seoul's most powerful guests sat in gold-cushioned chairs, their designer gowns and tailored suits worth more than most people earned in a lifetime. Politicians whispered to tech billionaires. Mafia underbosses nodded respectfully to foreign diplomats. The string quartet played Pachelbel's canon with surgical precision. Everything was perfect. At the altar, Lee Seo-jun stood motionless. His black Armani tuxedo fit his broad shoulders like armor. His jaw was sharp enough to cut glass. His dark eyes revealed nothing, two pools of obsidian reflecting the candlelight. On his neck, just below his left ear, the intricate black ink of his family's Mafia crest caught the light. The dragon consuming its own tail. The symbol of the Lee Empire. He was moments away from marrying the woman who had supposedly saved him from heartbreak. The woman who had exposed his first wife's betrayal. His loyal lieutenant leaned close. "The bride is ready, sir." Seo-jun nodded once. The doors at the far end of the hall began to open. Guests turned, smiling, expecting white lace and bridal grace. Instead, silence. Complete, devastating silence. A woman stepped through the doorway. She wore a floor-length crimson gown that pulled behind her like spilled wine. Her dark skin glowed against the deep red fabric. Her natural coils were swept into an elegant updo, adorned with a single gold pin. Her eyes, soft, wounded, impossibly calm, found Seo-jun across 300 frozen guests. Daniela Michael, his first wife, the woman he had divorced 2 years ago, the woman everyone believed had disappeared forever. She was supposed to be gone, broken, forgotten. Instead, she walked forward with the quiet dignity of a queen returning to claim her throne. Seo-jun's breath stopped. His fingers curled at his sides, the dragon tattoo on his knuckles stretching tight over white bone. Behind him, the bride-to-be clutched her bouquet so hard the stems snapped. "What?" Someone whispered. "Is that his ex-wife? She's supposed to be dead. She's supposed to be nothing." Daniela stopped in the center of the aisle. She did not speak. She did not need to. Her presence alone unraveled everything. And when her eyes finally met Seo-jun's, he saw something that stopped his heart. Not hatred, not revenge. Pain. The kind of pain that never heals. The kind of pain he had caused. Before we continue this unforgettable story, tell us where you're watching from and what you think is about to happen. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy emotional Afro-Korean stories like this one, please like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories. Now, let us go back to the beginning. 3 years earlier, the penthouse overlooked the Han River, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing Seoul's glittering skyline. Daniela stood at the kitchen counter, stirring a pot of jollof rice. The familiar scent of tomatoes, peppers, and smoked fish filled the space, a small piece of Lagos in the heart of Korea. Behind her, the door clicked open. She didn't turn around. She already knew the weight of his footsteps, the way he paused to remove his shoes, the soft rustle of his coat being hung precisely on the third hook. "You cooked," Seo-jun said. His voice was low, measured, the same voice that made grown men tremble in boardrooms. But with her, it softened, just slightly. "Your mother called," Daniela replied, finally turning. "She asked why we haven't visited in 3 weeks. Seo-jun loosened his tie, the dragon tattoo on his wrist catching the kitchen light. "What did you tell her?" "That her son works too much and her daughter-in-law misses her." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. It vanished quickly. He never let emotions linger. But she caught it. She always caught it. "Come here," he said quietly. She wiped her hands on a towel and crossed the marble floor. He pulled her close, his hand settling on the small of her back. "I don't deserve you," he murmured against her hair. "No," she agreed softly. "You don't." He pulled back, studying her face. "Then why do you stay?" She touched his jaw, her thumb tracing the sharp line of bone. "Because I see who you really are, Seo-jun. Not the empire. You." His eyes flickered, something raw and vulnerable breaking through the ice. He kissed her forehead. "Don't ever leave me, Daniela." "Never," she whispered. She meant it. She meant it with every fiber of her being. She didn't know that 6 months later, he would be the one to leave. Meanwhile, across Seoul, in a sleek high-rise apartment, a woman stared at her reflection. Park Minji adjusted her silk robe, studying the elegant lines of her face. Korean beauty standards had always favored her. Porcelain skin, delicate features, that perfect combination of innocence and seduction. But it wasn't enough. It was never enough. She picked up her phone, scrolling through photos of Lee Seo-jun. At charity galas, at corporate events, at his wedding, standing beside her. Beside Daniela. Minji's jaw tightened. They had been best friends since university. Daniela had been the one to introduce her to Seoul's elite circles. Daniela had been the one to help her secure her first luxury brand contract. Daniela had been the one to invite her to the party where she first saw him. Lee Seo-jun, the most powerful man she had ever encountered. Cold, untouchable, married to her best friend. Minji set down the phone. Her reflection smiled back at her. Beautiful, calculating, patient. She had waited long enough. Every empire had cracks. Every man had weaknesses. And Seo-jun's weakness was obvious. He feared betrayal more than death. His father had been betrayed by a trusted lieutenant. His mother had been betrayed by her own sister. Betrayal was the blade that cut deepest into the Lee bloodline. If Minji could make him believe Daniela had betrayed him, he would destroy his own marriage. And Minji would be there to catch the broken pieces. Several months later, the first seed was planted at the Lee family's annual gala. 300 guests filled the grand ballroom of the Schiller Hotel. Daniela wore an emerald gown that complemented her dark skin beautifully. She stood beside her husband, greeting diplomats and business partners with gracious smiles. Minji watched from across the room, champagne flute in hand. She waited until Seo-jun stepped away to speak with his uncle. Then she approached. "Danny," she said warmly, embracing her friend. "You look stunning." "So do you," Daniela replied, genuine warmth in her voice. "That dress is gorgeous." "Thank you." Minji's smile didn't waver. "Listen, I need to talk to you about something. Privately." Daniela's brow furrowed. "Is everything okay?" "Not here." Minji glanced around nervously, a perfectly rehearsed gesture. "Can we meet tomorrow? My apartment." "Of course." The trap was set. The next afternoon, Daniela arrived at Minji's apartment with a box of pastries from her favorite bakery. "You sounded worried last night," she said, settling onto the white leather sofa. "What's going on?" Minji poured tea with trembling hands, another rehearsed detail. "I don't know how to say this, Danny." "Just say it." Minji bit her lip. "I've been seeing someone. A businessman. He's married." Daniela's expression shifted to concern. "Minji." I know it's wrong." Tears welled in Minji's eyes, real tears, summoned through years of practice. "But I think I love him, Danny. I think I really love him." Daniela set down her teacup and moved closer, taking her friend's hands. "Who is he?" Minji shook her head. "I can't say. Not yet. But I need your advice. I need someone I can trust. You can always trust me. Can I? Even if my choices might hurt people you care about." Daniela squeezed her hands. "We've been friends for 8 years. Nothing will change that." Minji's tears flowed faster. Inside, she smiled. This was easier than she'd expected. 1 month later, the photographs arrived at Seo-jun's office in a plain manila envelope. No return address. No note. Just images. Daniela entering a hotel. Daniela in a corridor. A man's hand on her back. Daniela's face turned towards someone, the angle obscuring the other person but suggesting intimacy. Seo-jun's hands didn't shake as he studied each photograph. His expression didn't change. But something behind his eyes, something human, something vulnerable, died. He pressed his intercom. "Get me everything on my wife's movements for the past 3 months." "Yes, sir." He set down the photographs. His fingers traced the dragon tattoo on his collarbone, visible through his partially unbuttoned shirt. Betrayal. The word echoed through generations of Lee family trauma. His grandfather had killed his own brother for betrayal. His father had buried 3 men alive for betrayal. And now, his wife. That evening, Daniela knew something was wrong the moment Seo-jun walked through the door. His footsteps were too precise. His silence was too heavy. "You're home early," she said carefully, setting down her book. He didn't remove his coat. He stood in the doorway, studying her like a stranger. "Where were you last Tuesday?" The question hung in the air. Tuesday. She thought back. "I had lunch with Minji. Then I went to the foundation office. And after, I came home. You weren't here. I made dinner and read." He reached into his coat and produced the photographs. One by one, he laid them on the table. Daniela's blood ran cold. "What is this?" she whispered. "I was hoping you could tell me." She picked up the first photograph with trembling hands. It showed her entering the Grand Hyatt. She remembered that day. She had met with a potential donor for her literacy foundation. "This is from my meeting with Mr. Okonkwo. He's a Nigerian investor." And this? The second photograph showed her in a corridor, a man's hand on her lower back. She squinted at the image. "That's James, his assistant. He was guiding me to the conference room." And this? The third photograph showed her face turned toward someone, her expression soft. "I don't understand," she said slowly. "These are innocent moments. Why do you have these?" "Innocent?" Seo-jun's voice could have frozen lava. "My wife, in a hotel with another man. And you call it innocent?" "Seo-jun." She stood, reaching for him. "I would never." "Don't." The single word stopped her cold. "I have done many terrible things in my life, Daniela. I have lied, manipulated, and destroyed without mercy. But I gave you everything. My name, my protection, He stopped, jaw tightening. "And this is how you repay me?" "I haven't done anything." The photographs don't lie. Photographs can be manipulated, taken out of context. She grabbed his arm, forcing him to look at her. "I love you. I have loved you from the moment you first looked at me. I would never betray you." For a single heartbeat, something flickered in his eyes. Doubt, hesitation. Then it hardened. "I want you out of this penthouse by morning. Seo-jun, the lawyers will contact you about the divorce proceedings. Listen to me." Her voice cracked the silence like thunder. Seo-jun paused, surprised. In 3 years of marriage, she had never raised her voice. Not once. "I'm not leaving," she said, her voice shaking with controlled fury. "Not until you tell me who gave you these photographs. Not until you let me prove my innocence. I don't owe you anything. You owe me the truth." She stepped closer, her dark eyes blazing. "You owe me 3 years of loyalty. 3 years of standing beside you while men who wanted you dead watched for weakness. 3 years of loving a man who struggles to love himself." The words landed like blows. Seo-jun's expression didn't change. He was too well trained for that. But his breathing shifted. "Faster. Shallower. Get out," he said quietly, "before I have you removed. If you do this," she whispered, "if you throw away everything we have because of some photographs you don't understand, you will regret it for the rest of your life. That's a risk I'm willing to take." She held his gaze for a long, agonizing moment. Then she walked toward the bedroom. She didn't pack much. Her grandmother's jewelry, her mother's prayer book, a few clothes. The rest could burn, for all she cared. When she reached the door, she paused. "One day," she said without turning, "you will learn the truth. And when you do, Seo-jun, I hope you remember this moment. I hope you remember how you looked at me. Like I was nothing. Like everything we shared meant nothing." The door closed behind her. Seo-jun stood alone in the penthouse that suddenly felt like a tomb. He told himself he felt nothing. He almost believed it. 1 week later, Minji arrived at the penthouse with flowers and sympathy. "I came as soon as I heard," she said softly, setting the orchids on the counter. "Seo-jun, I'm so sorry." He stood at the window, staring at the city below. The dragon tattoo on his neck looked darker somehow. Or perhaps it was just the shadows. "You warned me," he said flatly. "At the gala, you tried to tell me something was wrong." Minji lowered her eyes. "I didn't want to believe it. She was my best friend. What do you know?" "Only rumors." She hesitated artfully. People saw her at that hotel before. Multiple times. Always with the same man. Seo-jun's jaw tightened. I should have told you sooner, Minji continued, her voice breaking. But I couldn't betray her trust. Even now, I feel like I'm the one who. You did the right thing. He turned to face her. In the afternoon light, he looked exhausted. Human. Vulnerable. You were loyal to me, he said. Even when she wasn't. Minji's heart raced. This was it. This was the moment she had engineered for 2 years. I've always cared about you, Seo-jun. She stepped closer, her perfume filling the space between them. More than I should have, perhaps. He studied her face, the delicate features, the concerned expression, the subtle invitation in her eyes. She was beautiful, safe, uncomplicated, unlike Daniela, who had always seen too much, who had always demanded too much, who had loved him in ways that made him feel exposed. I need time, he said finally. Of course. Minji touched his arm, a brief, innocent contact. I'll be here. Whatever you need. She left the penthouse with a smile she couldn't quite hide. Phase 2 was complete. Meanwhile, across Seoul, Daniela stood in the rain outside a modest apartment complex. Her designer luggage looked absurd against the weathered building. But this was the only place she could go. The only person who would take her in without questions. She pressed the buzzer. A woman's voice crackled through the speaker. Yes. Auntie Grace, Daniela said, her voice cracking. It's me. 3 seconds of silence. Then the door buzzed open. Grace Adebayo stood waiting on the 3rd floor landing. She was 62 years old, built like a warrior queen, with silver locks piled high on her head. She had been Daniela's mother's closest friend. When cancer had taken Daniela's parents within months of each other, Grace had been there. When Daniela had moved to Seoul for work, Grace had followed. Someone needs to keep you grounded, she had said. These Koreans won't understand your food preferences. Now, Grace took one look at her goddaughter's face and opened her arms. Daniela collapsed into the embrace. She didn't cry. She couldn't. The tears would come later, in private, when the shock wore off. But for now, she let herself be held. Inside, Grace commanded gently, I'll make tea. Later that evening, Daniela sat at the small kitchen table, a cup of untouched tea cooling before her. She had told Grace everything. The photographs, the accusations, the look in Seo-jun's eyes, like she was already dead to him. Grace listened without interruption. When Daniela finished, the older woman was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke. Do you know who sent those photographs? No, but you suspect. Daniela's hands tightened around the teacup. The timing. The hotel was where I met Mr. Okonkwo. The only person who knew about that meeting was Minji. The name hung in the air like poison. I introduced them, Daniela whispered. At our wedding reception. I thought they should know each other. My husband, my best friend. And now you think your best friend engineered your divorce. I don't want to believe it. But you do. Daniela was silent. Grace reached across the table and took her goddaughter's hands. Listen to me carefully. Omo am I, she said, using the Yoruba endearment. You are Daniela Adora Michael. Your mother was a queen among women. Your father was a man of unshakable honor. You carry their blood, their strength, their dignity. Tears finally spilled down Daniela's cheeks. If your husband chose to believe lies over loyalty, that is his failure, not yours. If your friend chose betrayal over sisterhood, that is her burden to carry. But I still love him, Auntie. Grace's expression softened. I know, child. Love does not die simply because it should. She released Daniela's hands and stood. But you will not fade away because a man discarded you. You will rise. You will rebuild. And if the truth ever comes to light, you will hold your head high and let them drown in their own shame. Daniela wiped her eyes. How do I do that? Grace smiled, a warrior's smile, fierce and knowing. First, you remember who you really are. Second, you build a life so extraordinary that when they see you again, they will choke on their regret. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized on a Tuesday. Daniela signed the papers in a lawyer's office while Seo-jun waited in another room. He didn't see her, didn't speak to her, didn't acknowledge 3 years of marriage beyond a legal signature. She left the building with nothing but her freedom. No alimony, no property claims, no severance from the Lee Empire. She had refused it all. Her lawyer had thought she was insane. But Daniela understood something her lawyer didn't. She didn't want his money. She wanted his memory. She wanted him to remember that she had walked away clean, that she had left with her dignity intact, that she had needed nothing from him. And one day, when the truth finally surfaced, that memory would haunt him. 6 months after the divorce, Minji moved into the penthouse. She didn't live there officially, not yet, but she was there most nights. Her clothes hung in the closet. Her products lined the bathroom shelves. Her presence slowly filled the spaces Daniela had left behind. Seo-jun didn't resist. He didn't embrace it either. He simply allowed it. His lieutenants noticed the change. Their boss, once cold but focused, was now cold and distant. He took more dangerous meetings, made riskier decisions, started drinking alone in his office at 3 a.m. So, his most trusted lieutenant said one night, "You haven't been yourself since." Don't. The single word shut down the conversation. But Kim Tae-hyun had served the Lee family for 20 years. He had known Seo-jun since childhood, and he knew what he was seeing. His boss was destroying himself. Meanwhile, in Lagos, Daniela stepped off the plane into Nigerian heat and immediately felt something loosen in her chest. Home. She hadn't been back in 4 years. 4 years of building a life in Seoul. 4 years of becoming Mrs. Lee Seo-jun. 4 years of forgetting who she was before him. Grace had been right. It was time to remember. She took a taxi to the family estate, a sprawling compound in Victoria Island that she had inherited after her parents' deaths. The staff greeted her with tears and embraces. "Madam, you've finally come home. We've missed you so much. Your mother would be so proud." She spent the first week simply existing, walking the gardens her mother had planted, reading in her father's library, cooking the recipes her grandmother had taught her. She didn't think about Seo-jun. She didn't think about the divorce. She didn't think about the photographs that had destroyed everything. She just healed. And then, on the 8th day, a letter arrived. Later that afternoon, the letter was from a law firm in London. Daniela opened it with trembling hands, not knowing what to expect. What she found changed everything. "Dear Ms. Michael, we are writing to inform you of the passing of Mr. Chukwemeka Michael, your paternal grandfather." Her grandfather. She had only met him once, when she was 7. A stern old man with sharp eyes and an enigmatic presence. Her father had been estranged from him. Some ancient family dispute that no one ever explained. Upon his death, you have been named the sole beneficiary of his estate, which includes. She read the list, and read it again. Oil refineries in the Niger Delta. Real estate holdings across Africa. A private bank in Switzerland. Investment portfolios worth. She had to sit down. Total estimated value, $4.7 billion USD. 4.7 billion. Daniela Adara Michael, divorced, discarded, deemed worthless, was now one of the wealthiest women in Africa. 1 year later, the business world noticed her emergence. African heiress launches luxury brand partnership in Paris. Michael Foundation opens 15 school in rural Nigeria. Forbes names Daniela Michael one of Africa's most influential women under 40. She built her empire quietly. No flashy announcements. No social media presence. Just steady, strategic power. She established offices in Lagos, London, and Paris. She funded education initiatives across West Africa. She invested in women-owned businesses. She became everything her parents had dreamed she could be. And she never, not once, looked back toward Seoul. Meanwhile, Seo-jun saw the headlines. His lieutenant had flagged them. Any news involving his ex-wife was automatically monitored. Standard protocol, Tae-hyun had said, in case she becomes a security concern. But as Seo-jun read article after article about Daniela's transformation, security was the last thing on his mind. She was magnificent, powerful, unrecognizable. The woman he had married had been gentle, supportive, soft. This woman commanded boardrooms and charity galas with equal authority. This woman wore power like couture. This woman didn't need anyone, especially not him. He closed his laptop, reached for the whiskey, and told himself he felt nothing. 18 months after the divorce, Minji got what she wanted. Lee Seo-jun proposed on a Tuesday, in the same penthouse where he had accused Daniela of betrayal. The ring was a 6-carat diamond. The announcement made headlines across Asia. Lee Empire heir to wed fashion executive Park Min-ji. Seoul's most eligible bachelor finally settles down. From heartbreak to happiness, Seo-jun's journey to love. Min-ji smiled for every photograph. She had won. The wedding was set for the following spring. 300 guests. The Grand Hanok Estate. The most extravagant celebration Seoul had ever seen. And as the invitations were printed, Min-ji allowed herself a moment of triumph. Daniela was gone. Forgotten. Replaced. She didn't know that across the world, in Lagos, a manila envelope was being prepared. An envelope containing evidence that would destroy everything. 2 years after the divorce, 1 month before the wedding, the envelope arrived at Grace's apartment. No return address. No note. Just photographs. But these photographs were different. They showed Minji meeting with a private investigator. Minji exchanging cash for a USB drive. Minji studying photographs of Daniela, the same photograph that had ended her marriage. And one final image. Minji's face, caught in an unguarded moment, wearing an expression of pure, calculated triumph. Grace studied each photograph carefully. Then she reached for her phone. Later that evening, Daniela listened in silence as her godmother explained. Someone is trying to expose her, Grace said. I don't know who, and I don't know why, but they want you to know the truth. The truth. Daniela's voice was flat. That my best friend destroyed my marriage. That your husband chose to believe her instead of you. Daniela was quiet for a long moment. What am I supposed to do with this, Auntie? Whatever you want. Burn it. Send it to journalists. Deliver it to Seo-jun yourself. He's getting married next month. I know. To her. I know. Daniela closed her eyes. 2 years of healing. 2 years of building something new. 2 years of forcing herself to forget the man who had looked at her like she was nothing. And now, he should know, she said finally. Whatever he chose to believe, whatever he did to me, he should know who he's marrying. Are you sure? No. Daniela opened her eyes. But I'm doing it anyway. 2 weeks before the wedding, the invitation arrived at Daniela's Lagos office. She stayed at it for a full minute before opening it. You are cordially invited to the wedding of Lee Seo-jun and Park Min-ji. She almost laughed. The audacity. The cruelty. Someone wanted her there. Someone wanted her to witness Minji's triumph. Or perhaps, someone wanted to create chaos. She thought about the anonymous photographs. The timing couldn't be coincidental. Whoever had sent the evidence wanted her at that wedding. Wanted her to be the one who brought the truth to light. She should refuse. She should stay in Lagos, surrounded by her success, untouchable and unbothered. But there was a part of her, a stubborn, wounded part, that needed closure. She needed to look Seo-jun in the eyes. She needed to see his face when the truth was finally revealed. She needed him to know that she had never betrayed him. Not once. Not ever. 1 week before the wedding. Seoul hadn't changed. The city still glittered with ambition and secrets. The Han River still curved through the urban landscape like a silver serpent. And the Lee family's influence still permeated every corner of power. Daniela checked into the Park Hyatt under an assumed name. She wasn't hiding. She simply wanted time to prepare. Grace had insisted on accompanying her. You're not walking into that snake pit alone, the older woman had declared. Now, in the hotel suite, they reviewed the plan. The wedding is Saturday, Grace said. You'll need something to wear. I have something. Something that will make him regret every moment of the past 2 years. Daniela almost smiled. I have something. 2 days before the wedding, the fitting took place in a private atelier. The gown was crimson silk, hand-embroidered with gold thread in patterns that echoed traditional Nigerian aso-oak. It had been commissioned specifically for this moment. Omo am I, Grace breathed when Daniela emerged from the dressing room. You look like a goddess of vengeance. Good. Daniela studied her reflection. That's exactly what I'm going for. The night before the wedding, Seo-jun couldn't sleep. He stood at the penthouse window, watching the city lights blur through the glass of whiskey in his hand. Tomorrow, he would marry Minji. Tomorrow, he would finally close the chapter of his life that included Daniela. So why did he feel like he was walking toward a cliff? His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered anyway. Silence. Then a voice he hadn't heard in 2 years. I hope you're ready for the truth, Seo-jun. The line went dead. He stood frozen, the whiskey trembling in his grip. That voice. Her voice. Daniela. Saturday morning. The Grand Hanok estate had been transformed into a wonderland of white roses and crystal. Guests arrived in chauffeured vehicles, their gowns and suits representing the combined wealth of Seoul's elite. Politicians shook hands with business moguls. Mafia underbosses nodded respectfully to foreign diplomats. The string quartet played classical arrangements with mechanical precision. Everything was perfect. Everything was controlled. Everything was about to fall apart. In the bridal suite, Minji studied her reflection with satisfaction. The Vera Wang gown, the diamond tiara, the perfectly applied makeup. She was flawless. She was victorious. In less than an hour, she would become Mrs. Lee Seo-jun. All her planning, all her patience, all her manipulation, finally rewarded. Her phone buzzed with congratulatory messages. She ignored them all. Today wasn't about other people's praise. Today was about claiming what she had always deserved. At the altar, Seo-jun stood motionless, the perfect image of a groom awaiting his bride. His Armani tuxedo was flawless. His expression was unreadable. The dragon tattoo on his neck seemed darker than usual, or perhaps that was just the lighting. He hadn't slept. That voice kept echoing through his mind. I hope you're ready for the truth, Seo-jun. What truth? Daniela had betrayed him. The photographs had proven it. Minji had confirmed the rumors. It was settled. It was done. So why did he feel like something was fundamentally wrong? The ceremony begins. The string quartet shifted to Pachelbel's cannon. 300 guests rose from their seats. The massive wooden doors at the far end of the hall began to open. Everyone smiled, expecting the bride. But the doors opened too slowly, and the figure that emerged was wrong. All wrong. A woman stepped through. Crimson gown, dark skin glowing like burnished copper. Natural coils swept into an elegant updo. Eyes that held 2 years of pain and strength and quiet fury. Daniela. The guests froze. Whispers erupted like wildfire. Is that his ex-wife? I thought she disappeared. What is she doing here? This can't be happening. At the altar, Seo-jun stopped breathing. His fingers curled at his sides, the dragon tattoo on his knuckles stretching tight. She walked forward with devastating calm. Each step was precise. Each step was deliberate. Each step brought her closer to the confrontation 2 years in the making. She stopped in the center of the aisle. 300 guests stared. The string quartet fell silent. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. And when Daniela's eyes met Seo-jun's, she spoke. Hello, husband. The bridal suite. Minji heard the commotion through the walls. Something was wrong. The ceremony should have started by now. She should have been walking down the aisle. Instead, there was shouting, confusion, panic. She threw open the door and demanded answers from a passing staff member. What's happening? The young woman's face was pale. There's a woman in the ceremony hall. She just walked in and... Minji didn't wait for the rest. She gathered her gown and ran. The ceremony hall. The confrontation unfolded in slow motion. Daniela stood in the aisle, facing her ex-husband. 300 witnesses watched in horrified fascination. You shouldn't be here, Seo-jun said finally. His voice was steady, but something beneath it trembled. No, Daniela agreed. I shouldn't. But some things can't be ignored. She reached into her clutch and withdrew a manila envelope. Do you know what this is? Seo-jun's jaw tightened. I don't care. Then let me show you anyway. She opened the envelope and removed the photographs, not the ones that had destroyed her marriage, but new ones. Photographs of Minji meeting with a private investigator. Minji exchanging cash for fabricated evidence. Minji smiling with victory as she studied images of Daniela. One by one, Daniela held them up for the guests to see. Your fiancé, she said quietly, is a liar, a manipulator, and a fraud. The hall erupted. Guests gasped and whispered. Some stood for a better view. Others reached for their phones, capturing the scandal in real time. And then, the doors burst open again. Minji stood in the doorway, her bridal gown impossibly white against the chaos. Don't listen to her, she screamed. She's lying. She's always been lying. Daniela turned to face her former friend. The two women stared at each other across the length of the hall. Bride and betrayer, victim and villain. Tell him, Daniela said softly. Tell him the truth. The confrontation. Minji's composure cracked. Her perfect makeup, her perfect gown, her perfect lies, all of it crumbling under the weight of 300 stays. You were supposed to disappear, she hissed. You were supposed to fade away and never come back. I know. Daniela's voice was steady. That was your plan. But plans change. I love him first. Minji's voice rose to a scream. I saw him first. You just took him from me. I didn't take anything. He chose me. And instead of accepting that, you destroyed both of us. Seo-jun stepped down from the altar. The dragon tattoo on his neck seemed to pulse as he moved. Minji. His voice was ice. Is it true? Seo-jun, baby, listen to me. Is it true? The question cracked through the hall like a gunshot. Minji's facade finally shattered. She didn't deserve you, she whispered. She was nobody, just some foreigner who got lucky. I understood you. I could have given you everything. Seo-jun stared at her. 2 years. 2 years of believing a lie. 2 years of letting Minji comfort him. 2 years of preparing to marry the woman who had engineered his divorce. His hands trembled. Not with anger. With horror. I destroyed my marriage, he said slowly. I threw away my wife. I abandoned the woman I loved because of you. You never loved her the way you could have loved me. Get out. The words exploded from him with such force that Minji stumbled backward. Get out of this hall. Get out of this building. Get out of my sight. Seo-jun. Now. Security materialized from the shadows. Minji was escorted out, her screams echoing through the corridors. The guests watched in stunned silence. The scandal of the decade was unfolding before their eyes. And at the center of it all, Seo-jun turned to face Daniela, the woman he had wronged, the woman he had loved, the woman he had never stopped loving, even when he was too blinded by lies to see it. The aftermath. The hall emptied slowly. Guests filed out in shocked clusters, their phones already buzzing with messages and social media posts. Within hours, the story would be everywhere. Lee Empire heir's wedding interrupted by ex-wife. Shocking betrayal exposed at Seoul Society wedding. Park Minji, the woman who destroyed a marriage. But none of that mattered. Not to Seo-jun. Not anymore. He stood alone in the empty hall, surrounded by 10,000 white roses and the ruins of his second wedding. The dragon tattoo on his collarbone caught the fading light as he stared at the spot where Daniela had stood. She had left, walked out as calmly as she had walked in. No anger, no triumph, just quiet dignity. She had delivered the truth, and then she had disappeared. Again, that evening, Kim Tae-hyun found his boss in the penthouse, surrounded by whiskey bottles and wedding photographs. Not photographs of Minji, photographs of Daniela, old ones, from their wedding, from their anniversaries, from lazy Sunday mornings when Seo-jun had actually smiled. So, Tae-hyun said carefully, the guests have been sent home. The press has been contained. The Lee family lawyers are preparing statements. Seo-jun didn't respond. So, find her. Tae-hyun paused. So, Daniela. Seo-jun's voice was raw. Find her. I need to know where she's staying. So, with respect, do you think that's wise? Seo-jun finally looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed. His jaw was tight with barely controlled emotion. The dragon tattoo on his neck seemed to pulse with each heartbeat. I destroyed her, he said quietly. I believed lies over loyalty. I threw away the only person who ever truly saw me. He stood, the whiskey glass shattering on the marble floor. I don't deserve her forgiveness. I know that. But I need to look her in the eyes. I need to apologize. I need her to know that I understand now. Taehyun studied his boss for a long moment. In 20 years of service, he had never seen Seo-jun this broken. This human. The Park Hyatt, he said finally. She checked in under a false name, but our contacts confirmed her presence. Seo-jun grabbed his coat. Sir. Taehyun blocked the door. She may not want to see you. I know. She may never forgive you. I know that too. Then why? Because I love her. The words fell from Seo-jun's lips like a confession. I never stopped loving her. And if there's even the smallest chance that she might hear me out, I have to try. Taehyun stepped aside. The Park Hyatt. The knock came at 11 p.m. Grace answered the door and immediately tried to close it. Seo-jun's hand caught the frame. Please, he said. I need to speak with her. You need to leave. I know what I did. I know there's no excuse. You're right. There isn't. Grace's eyes blazed with protective fury. You took a good woman, a loyal, loving, extraordinary woman, and you threw her away like garbage. You believed lies over 3 years of devotion. You chose her betrayer over your own wife. I know. You don't know anything. Grace stepped closer, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. You don't know what it was like to hold her while she cried herself to sleep. You don't know what it took for her to rebuild herself from nothing. You don't know what she sacrificed to become the woman she is today. Then let me learn. Why should I? Because I need to make this right. Grace stared at him for a long moment. Behind her, a soft voice spoke. Let him in, Auntie. The sweet Daniela sat by the window, still wearing the crimson gown. She looked like a queen surveying her kingdom. Seo-jun stopped in the doorway, suddenly uncertain. The penthouse, the boardroom, the Mafia meetings. None of those places had ever made him feel as vulnerable as this moment. You came, she said. I had to. Why? The question hung in the air. Seo-jun crossed the room slowly, each step deliberate. He stopped 3 feet away from her. Close enough to touch, too far to reach. Because I was wrong, he said. Because I believed lies instead of trusting you. Because I destroyed the best thing in my life and I've spent 2 years pretending I didn't care. Daniela's expression didn't change. And now I know the truth. Now I understand what Minji did. Now I need you to know. He paused, struggling with words that didn't come easily. I need you to know that I'm sorry. More sorry than I've ever been for anything. Sorry. She tested the word like it might be poisoned. Does sorry erase 2 years of pain? Does sorry rebuild the trust you shattered? Does sorry give me back the woman I was before you looked at me like I was nothing? No. His voice cracked. It doesn't. Nothing I say can undo what I did. But I'm saying it anyway because you deserve to hear it. Because I needed you to know that the man who accused you, who abandoned you, who married someone else, that man was wrong. Completely, devastatingly wrong. Silence filled the room. Daniela rose from her chair. In the crimson gown, with the city lights behind her, she looked like something out of a painting. A warrior. A goddess. A woman who had survived being broken and emerged stronger. I forgave you a long time ago, she said quietly. Hope flickered in Seo-jun's eyes. But forgiveness, she continued, is not the same as trust. And trust is not the same as love. And love. She paused. Love is not something you can demand or deserve. It's something that must be earned. Then let me earn it. How? Any way you let me. She studied his face. The sharp jaw, the cold eyes that weren't quite so cold anymore, the dragon tattoo that peeked above his collar. The man I married, she said slowly, would never have said those words. He was too proud, too armored, too afraid. The man you married was a fool. Yes, he was. She stepped closer. But fools can change. Do you believe that? She didn't answer. Instead, she raised her hand and touched his face, the same gesture she had made 1,000 times before. His eyes closed. His breath caught. And for the first time in 2 years, Lee Seo-jun felt something other than numbness. I don't know if I can love you again, she whispered. I don't know if I can trust you again. But I'm willing to find out. His eyes opened. What does that mean? It means. She withdrew her hand. We start over. Not as husband and wife. Not as strangers. But as two people who might, possibly, someday, find their way back to each other. And if we can't, then at least we'll know we tried. He reached for her hand, slowly, carefully, giving her every opportunity to pull away. She didn't. Their fingers intertwined. And somewhere in the distance, a church bell rang midnight. A new day was beginning. 1 week later, Minji had not gone quietly. The scandal had exploded across Korean media. Her name was synonymous with betrayal. Her career was in ruins. Her social standing was destroyed. But Minji had not survived this long by giving up easily. In a modest apartment far from the luxury she had once enjoyed, she planned her revenge. They think they've won, she muttered, scrolling through news articles. They think I'll just disappear. She reached for her phone. She still had contacts. She still had information. And she still knew secrets about the Lee family that could burn their empire to the ground. Meanwhile, Seo-jun's uncle, Lee Dong-woo, sat in the family's private study. He was 64 years old, silver-haired, with the same sharp features as his nephew. But where Seo-jun's coldness was defensive, Dong-woo's was predatory. He had watched the wedding disaster with barely concealed satisfaction. For years, he had waited for Seo-jun to falter. For years, he had resented his brother's son inheriting the empire. And now Seo-jun was compromised, distracted, vulnerable. Bring me everything on Daniela Michael, Dong-woo said to his assistant. If my nephew is going to lose his mind over a woman, I want to know exactly who she is. Across Seoul, Daniel Kwame Mensah arrived at Daniela's hotel with flowers and concern. He was 38, Ghanaian American, with a warm smile and a presence that commanded respect without intimidation. He ran one of Africa's largest investment firms. He had known Daniela for 3 years. He had been in love with her for 2. You could have called me, he said as she opened the door. I would have been on the first flight. I know. Daniela accepted the flowers with a soft smile. But this was something I needed to do myself. Confront your ex-husband at his wedding. Deliver the truth. Daniel set down his briefcase. And now. She paused. Now it's complicated. Seo-jun. She nodded. Daniel's expression didn't change, but something behind his eyes shifted. Are you going back to him? I don't know. Do you still love him? The question hung in the air. Daniela looked away. I don't know that either. That evening, Seo-jun arrived at the hotel to find Daniel Mensah leaving. The two men assessed each other in the lobby. Cold Korean calculation, meeting warm African composure. Mr. Lee, Daniel said evenly. I've heard a lot about you. Mr. Mensah. Seo-jun's voice was ice. I've heard enough. I'm sure you have. Daniel's smile didn't reach his eyes. You should know, Daniela has people who care about her. People who never believe the lies you chose to accept. Is that a warning? Just an observation. Daniel walked past him without another word. Seo-jun watched him go, jealousy coiling in his chest like a venomous snake. The dragon tattoo on his wrist seemed to burn as he clenched his fist. Upstairs. You're jealous, Daniela observed as Seo-jun entered the suite. Should I be? Daniel is a friend. Friends don't look at each other the way he looks at you. Daniela set down her tea. What do you want, Seo-jun? I want to know who that man is to you. You lost the right to ask that question 2 years ago. The words landed like blows. Seo-jun stopped. His jaw tightened. His hands unclenched. You're right, he said quietly. I did. He turned to leave. Seo-jun. He paused at the door. Jealousy isn't attractive, she said. But honesty is. If you want to earn my trust again, start by being honest with yourself. He looked back at her. About what? About why you really came here. About what you're really afraid of. About the man you want to be versus the man you've been. Silence stretched between them. Then Seo-jun did something he hadn't done in years. He sat down. Not as a power play. Not as a strategy. But as a man who was finally ready to face his own demons. The conversation that changed everything. They talked until dawn. About their marriage. About the lies that destroyed it. About the fears neither had ever voiced. I was afraid of you, Seo-jun admitted, staring at the floor. Afraid of how much you saw me. Afraid of how much I needed you. When Minji showed me those photographs, a part of me was almost relieved. Relieved. Because if you had betrayed me, it meant I didn't have to be vulnerable anymore. It meant I could retreat behind my walls and pretend I didn't feel anything. Daniela was silent for a long moment. And now I know the walls were a prison, not a protection. He finally met her eyes. I don't want to hide anymore, Daniela. Not from you. Not from myself. She studied his face. The exhaustion, the regret, the desperate hope. What do you want? I want another chance. Not to be your husband. Not yet. Just to prove that I can be the man you deserved all along. And if I say no, then I'll leave. I'll give you everything. The apology, the closure, the freedom. But I won't pretend I don't love you anymore. I can't. Later that morning, Daniela stood at the window, watching Seoul wake up. Behind her, Seo-jun slept on the sofa, exhausted, vulnerable, human. She thought about the past 2 years. The pain, the growth, the woman she had become. She thought about Daniel Mensah, his kindness, his patience, his love that didn't demand anything. And she thought about the man on her sofa, his coldness, his intensity, his love that had nearly destroyed them both. She didn't know what the future held. She didn't know if she could trust again. But for the first time in 2 years, she was willing to find out. 2 weeks later, Lee Dong-woo received his report on Daniela Michael. He read it 3 times. Then he smiled. So, he murmured, Seo-jun's ex-wife is worth nearly $5 billion. His assistant shifted uncomfortably. So, what do you intend to do with this information? What I always do. Dong-woo set down the report. Turn weakness into opportunity. Across the city, Minji received a phone call from an unknown number. Miss Park, a cultured voice said. I believe we have interests in common. Who is this? Someone who also wants to see Lee Seo-jun fall. Minji's heart raced. What do you want? Only to help. A pause. Meet me at the Blue Dragon restaurant. Tomorrow night. 8 o'clock. The line went dead. Minji stayed at her phone. She should be suspicious. She should be careful. But desperation made people foolish. And Minji was very, very desperate. The Blue Dragon. The restaurant was empty except for a single occupied table. Lee Dong-woo sat in shadows, his face partially obscured. Miss Park. He gestured to the chair across from him. Please, sit. Minji sat, studying the man before her. You're Seo-jun's uncle. Among other things. Why contact me? Because my nephew has lost focus. His obsession with that woman is clouding his judgment. And when the heir of an empire loses focus. Dong-woo smiled coldly. Opportunities arise. What kind of opportunities? The kind that benefit people willing to act decisively. He slid a folder across the table. Inside you'll find evidence of certain irregularities in the Lee family finances. Irregularities that, if exposed, would force Seo-jun to step down. Minji opened the folder. Her eyes widened. This is enough to destroy him. Yes. Why give this to me? Because you have motivation. Dong-woo leaned forward. And because when Seo-jun falls, I'll need someone to help me manage the transition. The implication was clear. Join him, and she would have power. Join him, and she would have revenge. Join him, and she would finally win. What do you need me to do? Dong-woo's smile grew. For now, nothing. Just wait. And when the time comes, be ready to act. 3 weeks after the wedding disaster, Seoul's annual charity gala was the social event of the season. Everyone who was anyone would be there, including Lee Seo-jun, including Daniela Michael, and, watching from the shadows, including enemies they didn't yet know they had. The entrance. Seo-jun arrived alone. His bryony tuxedo was immaculate. His expression was unreadable. The dragon tattoo on his collarbone was visible through his partially unbuttoned shirt. Guests whispered as he passed. Did you hear about the wedding? Is it true about Minji? Where's his ex-wife? Seo-jun ignored them all. His eyes scanned the room, searching, waiting. And then, the crowd parted. Daniela descended the grand staircase in a gown of midnight blue. The fabric shimmered like captured starlight. Her jewelry was subtle. Her mother's earrings, her grandmother's bracelet. Her presence was anything but. Every eye turned to watch her, including Seo-jun's. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but stare. She was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. And for the first time in years, he let himself feel it. The approach. Daniela reached the bottom of the staircase. Daniel Mensah was waiting to escort her. He offered his arm with a warm smile. She accepted it gracefully. Across the room, Seo-jun's jaw tightened. The dragon tattoo on his neck seemed to pulse. He watched them navigate the crowd together. Watched another man make her smile. Watched another man touch her arm. Watched another man be everything he had failed to be. Something inside him cracked. Later that evening, the confrontation happened on the terrace. Daniela had stepped outside for air. Daniel had gone to get drinks. Seo-jun followed her. "You look beautiful tonight," he said, joining her at the railing. She didn't turn. "Thank you." Mensah seems attentive. He's a good man. Better than me. Now she turned. "Is that what you came to say?" "No." Seo-jun faced her fully. "I came to tell you that watching you with him tonight, it's killing me." "Good." The word was soft but sharp. "You need to feel something, Seo-jun. You spent our entire marriage behind walls. You need to feel what it's like when those walls come down." "I feel it." "Do you?" "Every moment." He stepped closer. "Every moment since you walked back into that wedding. Every moment since I learned the truth. Every moment since I realized I threw away the only person who ever truly knew me." Pretty words. True words. She studied his face. "And what do you want me to do with them?" "Nothing. Not yet." He reached into his jacket and withdrew a small velvet box. "But I want you to have this." He opened it. Inside was her wedding ring, the one she had left on the penthouse counter the night he threw her out. "You kept it," she whispered. "I couldn't throw it away." His voice was rough. "No matter how hard I tried to forget you, I couldn't let it go." "That doesn't mean anything." "It means everything." He pressed the box into her hands. "I'm not asking you to wear it. I'm not asking you to marry me again. I'm just asking you to know that you were never forgotten, and that when you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll be waiting." He turned and walked back inside. Daniela stood alone on the terrace, holding the ring. The ring he had placed on her finger 3 years ago. The ring that was supposed to mean forever. She should throw it away. She should move on. She should choose Daniel. Kind, patient, uncomplicated Daniel. But as she looked at the diamond glinting in the moonlight, she realized she couldn't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Watching from the shadows, Minji stood behind a curtain, phone in hand. She had photographed everything. Seo-jun and Daniela on the terrace. The ring. The confession. She sent the images to Dongwoo with a single message. "They are reuniting." The reply came immediately. "Then we accelerate the plan." 1 month after the gala, the evidence arrived at Daniela's Lagos office via encrypted email. It detailed financial irregularities within the Lee Empire. Shell companies, hidden accounts, money laundering through charitable foundations. None of it pointed to Seo-jun. All of it pointed to his uncle. But the documents had been carefully altered. Metadata showed Seo-jun's digital signature. Timestamps showed his access codes. If released to the press, it would destroy him. The accompanying message was brief. "Leave Korea. Leave him. Or this goes public." Daniela stayed at the screen. Someone was trying to use her to destroy Seo-jun. Someone who had access to Lee family secrets. Someone who wanted her to choose between protecting herself and protecting the man she still loved. She reached for her phone. That evening, Seoul, Seo-jun received the call in his office. "Someone is trying to frame you," Daniela said without preamble. "Financial documents showing fraud. Your digital signature forged. Whoever it is want me to stay away from you or they'll release everything." Silence. Then, "How do you know they are forged?" "Because I had my forensic accountants analyze them. The metadata doesn't match your actual access patterns. Someone inside your organization created these files." "Who?" "I don't know. But they have access to your most sensitive systems." Seo-jun's voice turned ice cold. "Thank you for warning me." "Seo-jun." Yes, be careful. Whoever is doing this, they're not just after your empire. They're after you. The investigation begins. Kim Tae-hyun led the internal investigation personally. It took 3 days to trace the digital breadcrumbs. 3 days of sleepless nights and mounting tension. And when they finally found the source, Tae-hyun stood in Seo-jun's office with a grim expression. Sir, the evidence points to your uncle. Seo-jun didn't react, didn't blink, didn't breathe. Show me. The confrontation. Lee Dong-woo was arrested the following morning. Not by police, by family. Seo-jun's men surrounded his uncle's estate at dawn. They found evidence of years of embezzlement, conspiracies to destabilize the family, communications with Minji Park, plans to frame Seo-jun and seize control. When they brought Dong-woo before his nephew, the older man showed no fear. You should have listened to me, he said, when I told you that woman would destroy you. Daniela didn't destroy anything. Seo-jun's voice was quiet but deadly. You did. I tried to save this family. You tried to steal it. Seo-jun nodded to his men. Take him to the compound. He'll face the family tribunal. As Dong-woo was led away, he laughed. You think this is over? Minji has copies of everything. She'll release it all. Your precious empire will burn. Let her try. The doors closed behind him. Meanwhile, Minji received the news of Dong-woo's arrest via burner phone. Her hands shook as she processed what this meant. Her partner was gone. Her protection was gone. Her plans were unraveling. She had 2 choices. Run. I'll burn everything down. She chose the second. The leak. The documents hit the media at midnight. Every major outlet. Every social platform. Every financial channel. Lee Empire heir accused of massive fraud. Billions hidden in shell companies. Seo-jun Lee. Criminal or victim. The story exploded across international headlines. Stock prices plummeted. Investors panicked. The Lee Empire's foundations began to shake. And in the chaos, Daniela booked a flight to Seoul. She had spent 2 years building her own empire. 2 years proving she didn't need anyone. But watching the man she loved face destruction alone. She couldn't do it. She wouldn't do it. Whatever they had been. Whatever they might become. She was going back. As Daniela's plane touched down in Seoul, her phone buzzed with an urgent message from Grace. He's gone to face Minji alone. No security. No backup. Tae-hyun says he's trying to end this himself. Danny, I think he's planning to sacrifice everything to protect you. Daniela's blood ran cold. The dragon was walking into the fire, and she was the only one who could pull him out. The rain fell in sheets across the city. Daniela's car cut through flooded streets, windshield wipers fighting a losing battle against the downpour. Her phone pressed against her ear. Where is he? She demanded. Tae-hyun's voice crackled through the speaker. The old Lee warehouse in Incheon. It was supposed to be demolished years ago, but Minji chose it for the meeting. Why would he go alone? She threatened to release more documents. Personal ones this time. Medical records. Psychological evaluations from when he was a child. Tae-hyun paused. Things that would destroy him publicly and personally. Daniela's grip tightened on the phone. She knew about those records. Seo-jun had told her once, in the dark hours of their marriage, about the childhood trauma, about the father who had trained him through violence, about the therapist who had diagnosed him with attachment disorders, about the shame he carried like chains. He's protecting me, she whispered. He's protecting everyone, Tae-hyun corrected. But mostly you. Minji made it clear. If he surrenders control of the empire and cuts all ties with you, she'll destroy everything. And he agreed. He's going to offer her something else. Something wise. What? Silence. Then, himself. The warehouse. The building loomed against the stormy sky like a wounded giant. Broken windows gaped like empty eye sockets. Rusted metal groaned in the wind. Inside, a single light burned on the 3rd floor. Seo-jun walked through the shadows, his footsteps echoing off concrete walls. He wore no armor, carried no weapons. The dragon tattoo on his neck was the only mark of who he truly was. He had made his decision. If Minji wanted destruction, he would give her a target. Just one. Only him. The confrontation. Minji waited in a circle of harsh fluorescent light. She looked nothing like the elegant woman who had nearly married him. Her hair was unwashed. Her designer clothes were wrinkled. Her eyes burned with something between madness and triumph. "You came alone," she said. "I didn't think you would. You didn't give me a choice. There's always a choice." She circled him slowly. "You could have let me release everything. Let the world see you for what you really are." "And what am I?" "Broken." She stopped in front of him. "Damaged. A little boy playing at being a king." Seo-jun's expression didn't change. "You're right," he said quietly. "I am broken. I've been broken since I was 6 years old, and my father first showed me what pain meant." Minji faltered, surprised by the admission. "But being broken," he continued, "doesn't make me weak. It makes me dangerous, because I have nothing left to lose." "You have her." The word hung in the air. "Huh, Daniela." "No," Seo-jun said. "I don't. I destroyed that 2 years ago. Whatever happens between us now, that's her choice, not mine." "How noble." Minji's voice dripped with contempt. The great Lee Seo-jun, finally taking responsibility. "What do you want, Minji?" "I want you to suffer." Her composure cracked. "I want you to feel what I felt when you chose her over me. When you looked at her like she was everything and I was nothing. I never looked at you at all." The words were soft but devastating. Minji recoiled as if struck. "That's the truth you can't accept," Seo-jun continued. "You were never competition for Daniela. You were never even in the same category. And all your scheming, all your manipulation, all your lies, they didn't make me love you. They just proved how small you really are." "Shut up." She pulled a gun from her waistband. Seo-jun didn't move. "Go ahead," he said calmly. "Pull the trigger. End this." "You think I won't?" "I think you've spent your entire life wanting things you couldn't have. And I think the moment you pull that trigger, you'll realize that killing me won't fill the emptiness inside you." The gun trembled in her hand. Tears streamed down her face. "I loved you," she whispered, "from the moment I saw you." "I know. And you never even noticed." "I know that too." The gun lowered slightly. "I could have made you happy," she said, "if you had just given me a chance. Happiness isn't something you take, Minji. It's something you build. With trust, with honesty, with love that doesn't demand anything in return." He stepped closer. "You never understood that. Because no one ever showed me." For a moment, just a moment, Seo-jun saw the wounded girl beneath the monster. The girl who had grown up in shadows, who had learned that love was a weapon, who had never known anything else. "It's not too late," he said quietly. "You can still choose differently." "It's already too late." She raised the gun again. And then, the interruption. The warehouse door burst open. Daniela stood in the entrance, rain streaming down her crimson coat. "Minji." Both figures turned. Daniela walked forward, her heels clicking against concrete. "Put the gun down. Stay back." Minji swung the weapon toward her. "This is between me and him." "No." Daniela kept walking. "It's between all of us. It always has been." She stopped 10 feet away. 3 people. 1 circle of light. Years of pain converging in a single moment. "You took everything from me," Daniela said. "My marriage. My reputation. My best friend. You took him first. I didn't take anyone. He chose me. And instead of accepting that, you destroyed both of us. I gave him what he needed. You gave him lies." Daniela's voice was steady. "You gave him manipulation. You gave him a reason to doubt the only person who ever truly loved him." Minji's hand shook. "He was supposed to be mine." "People aren't possessions, Minji. Love isn't ownership. And what you feel for Seo-jun." Daniela paused. "It's not love. It's obsession. It's hunger. It's the desperate need to fill a void that can never be filled by another person." "Stop it. I used to hate you." Daniela stepped closer. "I used to fantasize about this moment. About watching you pay for everything you did. Then watch." Minji pressed the gun against her own temple. "Minji, no. You want me gone? Fine. I'll be gone." Tears and rain mingled on her face. "But you'll remember me. Both of you. For the rest of your lives." Seo-jun moved first, faster than thought, faster than instinct. He grabbed Minji's wrist just as she started to pull the trigger. The gun discharged into the ceiling. Plaster rained down, and then Minji was on the ground, sobbing, the weapon skittering away across the concrete. "Why?" she screamed. "Why won't you let me end this?" Seo-jun knelt beside her, his hands still restraining her wrists. "Because," he said quietly, "you don't deserve death. You deserve help." "I don't want help." "I know, but you need it." Daniela retrieved the gun and stepped back. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was pounding. But when she looked at Seo-jun, at the man who had just risked his life to save the woman who had destroyed their marriage, she saw something she hadn't seen in years. The man she had fallen in love with. Still there, still capable of mercy. The aftermath. Taehyun arrived with a medical team. Minji was sedated and taken to a private psychiatric facility. Not a prison, not a punishment, a place where she might, eventually, find healing. Seo-jun had insisted. She was a weapon, he said as the ambulance pulled away. But someone else loaded her. Someone else pointed her. "Your uncle." And a lifetime of wounds before that. He turned to face Daniela. "We all have wounds. The question is what we do with them." She studied his face, the exhaustion, the rain-soaked hair, the dragon tattoo visible through his wet shirt. "You could have let her shoot you," she said. "Why didn't you?" "Because I finally have something to live for." "What?" He met her eyes. "Hope." 3 days later, the Lee family tribunal convened in the ancestral compound. 12 elders, 3 centuries of tradition, 1 verdict to determine the family's future. Lee Dong-woo stood before them in chains. Not literal chains. The family was too refined for that. But the weight of evidence hung heavier than any iron. Seo-jun presented the case personally. Years of embezzlement, conspiracies with external enemies, attempts to frame the rightful heir, manipulation of innocent people for personal gain. When he finished, the eldest council member spoke. "The evidence is clear. Lee Dong-woo has betrayed the family trust. The penalty, according to our laws, is exile and dissolution of all family ties." Dong-woo's face twisted with rage. "You're making a mistake. The boy is weak. His obsession with that foreign woman will destroy everything our ancestors built." Silence. The elder's voice cut through the chamber. "You speak of weakness, but you are the one who conspired in shadows. You are the one who tried to steal what you could not earn." The elder turned to Seo-jun. "The heir has shown strength we did not expect. He has exposed corruption and chosen justice over vengeance." Dong-woo was led away. His screams echoed through the corridors. But Seo-jun didn't watch him go. He was already thinking about what came next. The public statement. The press conference was held at Lee Industries headquarters. 300 journalists. Cameras from every major network. The world watching. Seo-jun stood at the podium, Daniela beside him. Not as his wife. Not as his possession. But as her own person, choosing to stand with him. 3 days ago, Seo-jun began. Documents were released accusing me of financial crimes. Those documents were fabricated by enemies within my own family. The truth has been established, and those responsible have been held accountable. Cameras flashed. Journalists shouted questions. Seo-jun held up a hand for silence. But I did not call this conference to discuss family politics. I called it to address something more important. He turned to look at Daniela. 2 years ago, I made the worst mistake of my life. I believed lies over loyalty. I abandoned my wife, the woman I loved, based on fabricated evidence and manipulation. The room went silent. I was wrong. Completely, unforgivably wrong. And while I cannot undo the damage I caused, I can acknowledge it publicly. He faced the cameras again. Daniela Adora Michael is the most extraordinary woman I have ever known. She stood by me when others fled. She loved me when I was unlovable. And when I threw that love away, she had every right to destroy me. He paused. Instead, she warned me about threats I couldn't see. She risked her safety to protect someone who had hurt her deeply. She showed more grace and courage than I will ever deserve. Daniela's eyes glistened. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Seo-jun continued. I am simply stating the truth that should have been spoken 2 years ago. My ex-wife never betrayed me. She was the victim of a conspiracy designed to separate us, and I was too blind to see it. He stepped back from the podium. The room erupted, but Seo-jun wasn't listening to the questions. He was watching Daniela's face, watching her process words she had waited 2 years to hear, watching her realize that the man who had wounded her so deeply was finally, truly, trying to heal. Later that evening, they walked through the gardens of the Lee compound. Cherry blossoms were beginning to bloom. The night air was soft and fragrant. "You didn't have to do that," Daniela said. "The press conference." "Yes, I did. It will make you look weak to your enemies. Let them think what they want." Seo-jun stopped beneath a flowering tree. "I've spent my entire life protecting my image, controlling how people see me. And where did it get me? You built an empire. I lost everything that mattered." He turned to face her. "I don't care about looking strong anymore. I care about being honest, about being the man I should have been all along." Daniela studied him in the moonlight. The sharp jaw, the dark eyes, the dragon tattoo visible at his collar. "I don't know if I can trust you," she said honestly. "Not completely. Not yet. I know. The damage you did, it doesn't disappear because you apologized. I know that too. So what happens now?" Seo-jun reached into his pocket and withdrew the velvet box he had shown her at the gala. "I'm not asking you to marry me again," he said. "I'm not asking for anything. But I want you to have this. Not as a symbol of what we were, as a promise of what I want to become." He opened the box. The ring caught the moonlight like captured starlight. "If you take this, it means you're willing to let me prove myself. Day by day, action by action, for as long as it takes. And if I can't accept it, then I'll wait. Until you can, or until you tell me there's no hope." Daniela looked at the ring, at the man holding it, at the future stretching before them. Uncertain, fragile, but real. "Grace thinks I'm insane for even considering this," she said. "Grace is probably right. Daniel thinks I deserve better. Daniel is definitely right. And what do you think?" Seo-jun's voice was soft. "I think you deserve the world. And I think I'll spend the rest of my life trying to give it to you, whether you choose me or not." Daniela reached out. Her fingers closed around the box. "This doesn't mean we're together," she said. "I know. This doesn't mean I forgive you. I know. This means I'm willing to see what happens. That's enough." His voice cracked slightly. "That's more than enough." 1 month later, progress was slow, painful, uncertain, but it was progress. Seo-jun stopped drinking alone at 3 a.m., started attending therapy sessions that actually addressed his childhood trauma, began dismantling the walls he had spent decades constructing. Daniela returned to Lagos to manage her business empire, but she called him every evening. Short conversations at first, awkward silences filled with unsaid words. Then longer calls, deeper conversations, stories about their days, their fears, their hopes. "I'm learning to cook," Seo-jun said one night. "Your jollof rice recipe. You're going to burn down your penthouse." "Probably, but I'm trying." She laughed. It was the first time he had heard her laugh in 2 years. The sound nearly destroyed him. 2 months later, Daniela flew to Seoul for a business conference. Seo-jun asked if he could see her. Just dinner. Just talking. Just being in the same room. She agreed. They met at a quiet restaurant far from the elite establishments they used to frequent. No photographers. No social obligations. Just two people trying to remember why they had fallen in love. "You look tired," she said. "The family tribunal reviews are exhausting." He managed a small smile. Apparently, restructuring a mafia empire requires a lot of paperwork. Mafia empires don't do paperwork. This one does now. He reached across the table, stopping just short of touching her hand. "I'm trying to legitimize everything, step by step." "Why?" "Because I want to build something clean. Something I wouldn't be ashamed to share with you." She turned her hand over, her fingers intertwined with his. "I'm starting to believe you," she said softly. "Starting. It's a process. I can work with that." 3 months later, Daniel Mensah visited Seoul. Business, he claimed. But everyone knew the real reason. He found Daniela at her hotel, preparing for a charity event. "You're still seeing him," Daniel said. "It wasn't a question. I'm still figuring things out. With a man who destroyed your marriage based on lies. With a man who's trying to become someone different." Daniel set down his briefcase. "I've waited 3 years, Daniela. I've watched you heal. I've watched you grow. I've hoped that eventually you'd see what's right in front of you." "Daniel, no, let me finish." His voice was gentle but firm. "I love you. I've loved you since the day we met. And I would never hurt you the way he did." "I know." "Then why?" She was silent for a long moment. "Because love isn't logical," she finally said. "It doesn't follow rules or timelines. It doesn't always make sense. And you still love him." "I don't know what I feel." She met his eyes. "But I owe it to myself to find out, even if it means taking a risk." Daniel nodded slowly. "I understand," he said. "I don't like it, but I understand. You deserve someone who can give you everything, Daniel. Not someone who's still figuring out her own heart." "Maybe." He picked up his briefcase. "But I'm not giving up hope entirely. If things don't work out with him, I'll still be here." He kissed her cheek. Then he was gone. Daniela stood alone, the weight of the choice pressing down on her. Two men, two possibilities, one heart. Later that evening, the charity event was crowded with Seoul's elite. Daniela wore a gown of deep purple, commanding attention without demanding it. Seo-jun found her near the champagne fountain. "Daniel was here," he said. Not accusing, just aware. "He was. Did he tell you he loves you?" "Yes." Seo-jun's jaw tightened. And I told him the truth." She turned to face him. "That I'm not ready to commit to anyone. That I need time." "Time?" "Yes." He nodded slowly. "I can give you time." "Can you?" "I spent 2 years trying to forget you. Another few months of waiting won't kill me." She almost smiled. "You're more patient than you used to be." "I'm a lot of things I didn't used to be." He stepped closer. "And I'm working on becoming more." The music shifted to a slow waltz. Couples began drifting toward the dance floor. Seo-jun extended his hand. "Dance with me. People will talk. Let them." She hesitated. Then she placed her hand in his. They moved together with the ease of muscle memory. 3 years of marriage. 2 years of separation. Bodies that still remembered each other even when hearts weren't sure. "I used to dream about this," Seo-jun murmured. "Dancing with you again. Holding you again. Dreams and reality are different things." "I know." His hand pressed against her back. "But for the first time, reality feels like it might be enough." 4 months after the warehouse, Minji was released from the psychiatric facility. Not cured, not forgiven, but stable enough to face the consequences of her actions. A private meeting was arranged. Just the three of them, Seo-jun, Daniela, and Minji. The location was neutral, a conference room in a Seoul hospital. Minji looked different, smaller somehow. The manic energy that had driven her was gone, replaced by something quieter. "Sadder, I know you don't owe me anything," she said, not meeting their eyes. "I know what I did was unforgivable." "It was," Daniela agreed. "But I want you to know, I'm sorry." Her voice cracked. "Not because I got caught. Not because I lost. Because I finally understand what I did to you. Both of you." Silence filled the room. "In therapy, they made me trace everything back," Minji continued. "Every lie. Every manipulation. The moment I decided to destroy your marriage instead of dealing with my own feelings." She finally looked up. "I was so sure that if I could just get Seo-jun, everything would be fine. That he would fill all the empty places inside me. But it wouldn't have worked. Even if you had never found out, even if we had gotten married, I would still be empty." "Why are you telling us this?" Seo-jun asked. "Because you deserve to hear it." Minji turned to Daniela. "And because I need you to know, what you and Seo-jun had was real. My lies didn't change that. I just exploited the cracks that were already there." Daniela was quiet for a long moment. "I don't forgive you," she said finally. "I may never forgive you. I know. But I hope you find peace. Not for your sake. For mine." Daniela stood. "Holding on to hatred takes energy I don't want to spend anymore." She walked out. Seo-jun lingered. What happens to you now? He asked. I'm leaving Korea. Starting over somewhere no one knows me. Minji managed a WAN smile. Maybe I'll finally figure out who I am when I'm not trying to be someone else. Good luck. Seo-jun. She called out as he reached the door. He paused. Take care of her. She deserves it. I know. He left without looking back. 5 months after the warehouse, Grace Adebayo arrived in Seoul with a mission. She sat Della and Seo-jun down in her modest apartment and looked at them both with the uncompromising gaze of a woman who had seen everything. I have watched this dance long enough, she said. It's time for honest talk. Auntie. Don't auntie me. Grace pointed at Seo-jun. You. Tell me why you're worth my goddaughter's time. Seo-jun didn't hesitate. I'm not, he said. I have done terrible things. Made terrible choices. Hurt the person I love most in ways that can never be fully repaired. Then why are you still here? Because she's willing to let me try. And as long as she's willing, I will never stop trying to be the man she deserves. Grace studied him for a long moment. Then she turned to Daniela. And you? What do you want? I want to stop being afraid, Daniela said quietly. Afraid of being hurt again. Afraid of trusting again. Afraid of loving someone who once threw me away. Are you working on it? Grace nodded slowly. Your mother, she said, was the bravest woman I ever knew. She loved your father with a fierceness that scared everyone around them. And when people tried to separate them, when they faced obstacles that seemed impossible, she chose love anyway. I remember. She used to say that love isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision that someone is worth the risk. Grace reached out and took Daniela's hand. Is he worth the risk? Daniela looked at Seo-jun, at the man who had wounded her so deeply, at the man who was fighting so hard to heal, at the man she had never stopped loving, even when she wanted to. Yes, she said. He is. 6 months after the warehouse, the renewal ceremony was small, intimate, nothing like the grand wedding that Minji had planned. Just 30 guests in a garden overlooking the Han River. Daniela's family from Nigeria. Seo-jun's trusted allies from Seoul. Grace presiding over the ceremony with a combination of Yoruba tradition and modern vows. We are not here to pretend the past didn't happen, Grace announced. We are here to acknowledge what was broken and celebrate what has been rebuilt. Seo-jun stood at the altar in a simple black suit. The dragon tattoo on his neck was visible. His hands were steady. His eyes never left Daniela as she walked toward him in a gown of ivory and gold. No white. White was for first weddings, for innocence. This was something different. Something forged through fire. When she reached him, he took her hands. I wrote my own vows, he said quietly. I hope that's okay. She nodded. He took a breath. Daniela Adora Michael. I have spent my entire life building walls. Protecting myself from pain. Believing that vulnerability was weakness and love was liability. His voice cracked slightly. You showed me I was wrong. From the first moment we met, you saw through every defense I had. And instead of running, you stayed. You loved me when I didn't know how to love myself. He squeezed her hands. I failed you. In the worst possible way. I believed lies instead of trusting the truth I saw in your eyes every single day. And I will spend the rest of my life regretting that choice. But today, his voice strengthened. Today, I make a new choice. I choose you, not the idea of you, not the possession of you. You, the brilliant, brave, beautiful woman who somehow sees something worth saving in a man who nearly destroyed everything. He reached up and touched her face. I vow to trust you, to listen to you, to fight beside you instead of against you, to be the partner you deserve, even when I fall short, to love you with everything I have, for as long as I breathe. Daniela's eyes were streaming. She didn't try to hide it. Your turn, Grace said softly. Daniela took a shaky breath. Lee Seo-jun, I spent 2 years hating you, mourning you, trying to forget you. She laughed through her tears. It didn't work. The guest chuckled. You are the most infuriating, complicated, difficult man I have ever met. You hide behind silence when words are needed. You build walls when bridges would serve better. You have a gift for making everything harder than it needs to be. Seo-jun's lips twitched. But you are also the man who learned to cook my grandmother's recipes. The man who went to therapy even when it terrified him. The man who stood in front of cameras and admitted his failures to the world because he thought I deserved to hear the truth. She stepped closer. I vow to trust your growth, to believe in your change, to call you out when you fall back into old patterns and celebrate when you choose new ones, to love you not for who you were, but for who you're becoming. She touched his chest, over his heart. I vow to be your partner, your equal, your home, for as long as we both shall live. Grace stepped forward, tears in her own eyes. By the power vested in me by the love that binds these two souls, she said, I pronounce you renewed. Not as the people you were, as the people you have chosen to become. Seo-jun pulled Daniela close. The kiss was soft, tender, full of promises kept and promises to come. The guests erupted in applause. Cherry blossoms fell like snow around them. And somewhere in the distance, a church bell rang. 1 year later, the Lee Michael Foundation held its annual gala in Lagos. 500 guests from 3 continents. Politicians, business leaders, artists, activists. The combined power of 2 dynasties united for something greater than profit. Education initiatives across West Africa. Trauma recovery programs in Korea. Women's empowerment projects spanning both worlds. Daniela and Seo-jun stood together on the stage, presenting the year's achievements. When we started this foundation, Daniela said, we wanted to prove that power could be used for healing instead of harm. We wanted to show, Seo-jun continued, that family legacy doesn't have to mean repeating old mistakes. They looked at each other. We're still learning, Daniela admitted. Still growing. Still making mistakes. But we're making them together, Seo-jun finished. And that makes all the difference. The applause lasted for several minutes. Later that evening, Grace found them on the balcony overlooking Lagos Harbor. Your mother would be proud, she said to Daniela. Both of them would be. I know. And you, Grace turned to Seo-jun, you've exceeded every expectation I had. That's because your expectations were very low. Grace laughed. True, but you've risen anyway. She pulled them both into a hug. I'm going to bed. Don't stay up too late. Yes, Auntie. Grace disappeared inside, leaving them alone under the stars. Seo-jun wrapped his arms around Daniela from behind. A year ago, he said, I was planning a wedding with the wrong woman, destroying my empire from within, drowning in lies I didn't even recognize. And now I have everything I never knew I needed. Daniela turned in his arms to face him. We did it, she said. We actually did it. Did what? Found our way back. He kissed her forehead. We did more than that. We built something new. Something that couldn't exist without everything we went through. That sounds dangerously optimistic for Lee Seo-jun. I'm learning new skills. She laughed and pulled him closer. I love you. I love you too. He held her tighter, more than I have words for. The city glittered below them. 2 cultures, 2 histories, 2 wounded people who had found healing in each other. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was better. It was real. Seoul, spring. The Lee family compound bloomed with cherry blossoms. A new generation ran through the gardens. A small girl with her father's sharp features and her mother's warm brown eyes. Adora Lee, named for Daniela's mother, beloved by both dynasties, destined for great things. Seo-jun watched his daughter chase butterflies, his expression softer than anyone from his old life would recognize. The dragon tattoo was still visible on his neck, but now it represented something different. Not just power, protection. She's going to be trouble, Daniela said, joining him on the veranda. She's our daughter. Of course she's going to be trouble. At least she has Grace to keep her grounded. Grace terrifies me more than any Mafia rival ever did. As it should be. They watched Adora tumble into a pile of fallen blossoms, giggling. I used to think, Seo-jun said quietly, that love was weakness. That letting anyone close was inviting destruction. And now I know it's the only thing that matters. He turned to face his wife. You taught me that. You and her. Daniela smiled. Don't get sentimental. You have a reputation to maintain. My reputation now is devoted husband and father. I think I can handle a little sentiment. She kissed him softly. Adora ran toward them, arms outstretched. Mommy, Daddy, look what I found. She held up a perfect cherry blossom, undamaged by her adventures. It's beautiful, sweetheart, Daniela said. Can we keep it forever? Seojun knelt to his daughter's level. Nothing lasts forever, little one. But we can press it in a book, and it will stay beautiful for a very long time. Promise. Promise. He picked her up, settling her on his hip. The three of them walked into the house together, a family built from ruins, stronger for having been broken. The past was not forgotten. The wounds had not disappeared, but they had healed. And in the healing, something extraordinary had grown. Across the world, Minji Park taught English at a small school in Portugal. She had changed her name, changed her life, found a quiet peace she never knew existed. Some nights, she thought about Seoul, about the people she had hurt, about the woman she used to be. But mostly, she thought about the future, about becoming someone worthy of the second chance she had been given. It was slow work, painful work, but it was work worth doing. And somewhere between two continents, Daniel Mensah fell in love with a Kenyan diplomat. They married in a small ceremony overlooking the Indian Ocean. He sent Daniela an invitation. She sent congratulations and a gift. They remained friends. Some loves were not meant to be romantic, but they were still valuable, still real, still worth honoring. Seoul, the Lee Michael Foundation headquarters. The building was new, built on the site of the warehouse where everything had almost ended. A phoenix from ashes, a monument to transformation. Daniela stood in her office, looking out at the city. Behind her, a photograph showed 3 generations of women, her grandmother, her mother, herself holding Adora. A legacy of strength, a legacy of love, a legacy worth protecting. Seojun appeared in the doorway. Meeting in 10 minutes, he said. I know. You're thinking again. Always. He crossed the room and stood beside her. What about? About how far we've come. She leaned into him. About how impossible this seemed 5 years ago. It was impossible, he agreed. Until it wasn't. Is that your new philosophy? Things are impossible until they are not. My new philosophy is simpler. He turned her to face him. Love the woman in front of me. Build something worth building. Keep growing. That's 3 things. I'm a complex man. She laughed. He kissed her. And in that moment, surrounded by everything they had built, everything they had overcome, everything they had become, both of them knew the truth. The past was not erased, but it had been redeemed, and the future stretched before them, full of possibility. The wedding that was supposed to be a triumph had become a living nightmare. But from that nightmare, something beautiful had emerged. 2 people who had lost everything, finding their way back to each other, finding their way forward. Together. Thank you for watching this incredible story. If this emotional Afro-Korean romance moved you, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Where are you watching from, and what touched your heart the most? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another powerful story. We have many more journeys of love, betrayal, redemption, and hope waiting for you. Until next time, may you always find your way back to love.